Emma's fingers trembled slightly as she dialed Sophie's number, her only lifeline in turmoil. Sitting in the dimly lit kitchen of her run-down apartment, she glanced nervously at the door, half expecting it to burst open at any moment. The place was a stark reminder of how much her life had spiraled out of control. "Hey, Sophie, it's me," Emma whispered into the phone, her voice strained with weariness and anxiety. Sophie's response was immediate and concerned. "Emma, what's wrong? You sound terrible." Emma exhaled slowly, trying to steady her voice. "It's Jack again. I don't know what to do, Sophie. He's getting worse. The other night, he came home drunk, and he was so angry about everything and nothing." The words tumbled out in a rush of fear and frustration. "He's barely working these days, and when he is, it's like he's different. He's so distant, and when he does talk, it's either to yell or to—" She paused, the unspoken words hanging heavily in the air. Sophie's voice was a mix of anger and concern. "You need to think about getting out, Emma. This isn't just about you anymore. It's not safe." Emma's gaze drifted to their few belongings: a secondhand sofa, a small TV barely working, and a kitchen table wobbled on 3 legs. This wasn't the life she had envisioned when she married Jack, the charismatic salesman who had promised her a world of happiness. "I know, Sophie, but where would I go? I can barely make ends meet as it is, and with my shifts at the hospital." Her voice cracked with the weight of her reality. Just then, the sound of the front door unlocking jolted Emma back to the present. Her heart raced with a mix of fear and resignation. "I have to go. He's back." Emma wiped away a tear as she hung up the phone, steeling herself for another unpredictable evening. The apartment, once a symbol of their new life together, now felt like a trap, a constant reminder of the dreams that had turned into a waking nightmare. Weeks had passed since the phone call with Sophie, and the tension in Emma's life had escalated. Jack's behavior became increasingly erratic, and his absences became more prolonged. Emma found herself lying awake at night, the weight of her situation pressing down on her. Emma returned home to an unusual silence one evening after a particularly grueling shift. The apartment was empty. Jack was nowhere to be seen. There was an envelope addressed to her on the kitchen table, amidst a clutter of unpaid bills and empty liquor bottles. With trembling hands, Emma opened it. Inside, she found bank statements and loan documents, all bearing her name, signatures forged in a clumsy imitation of her handwriting. The realization hit her like a physical blow. Jack had been taking out loans in her name, drowning them both in debt she hadn't known existed. The world seemed to spin around her as she absorbed the magnitude of his betrayal. The following morning, still reeling from her discovery, Emma arrived at the hospital. As she went through the corridors to her department, her mind raced with the implications of what she had found. She needed to confront Jack to understand why he had done this, but she also dreaded the confrontation and the further unraveling of their fragile relationship. Her thoughts were abruptly interrupted by the arrival of 2 police officers. They approached her calmly, but with a seriousness that immediately set her on edge. "Emma Dawson," one of them asked, his tone formal. "Yes, that's me. What's this about?" Emma's voice trembled, a sense of dread building within her. "I'm afraid you need to come with us. There are allegations of fraud and identity theft under your name," the officer stated. Emma's heart sank. The world seemed to slow down as she processed his words. The officers led her through the hospital, past the stunned faces of her colleagues. Emma felt a mix of embarrassment, confusion, and fear. She glanced around, hoping to see a familiar face, perhaps even Sophie's, but there was no one. As they escorted her out of the building, Emma's mind raced. Jack's actions had not only shattered their marriage, but now, it seemed, they were threatening to destroy her life. Her career, reputation, and everything she had worked so hard for were at risk because of the debts Jack had accrued in her name. The trust and love she once had for him had turned into a nightmare that was now all too real. As Emma grappled with the fallout of her arrest, Jack's descent into the abyss of his gambling addiction accelerated. Isolated in the increasingly empty apartment, Jack's once charismatic demeanor had eroded entirely, replaced by a restless, haunted look. Night after night, he found himself in the seedy underbelly of the city, his eyes glazed over from the intoxicating mix of alcohol and the adrenaline of gambling. In his rare moments of sobriety, guilt, and shame would wash over him as he thought of Emma. But these feelings were quickly drowned out by the overwhelming urge to gamble. Jack's addiction was no longer just a vice. It had become his entire world, consuming his thoughts, his actions, and ultimately, his relationship with Emma. After spending several harrowing months in prison, an unexpected lifeline came to Emma in the form of a local NGO dedicated to supporting wrongfully accused individuals. They had come across Emma's case and, struck by the injustice, decided to intervene. Their legal assistance and mounting evidence of her innocence led to Emma's early release. However, the time she spent behind bars had been a grueling ordeal, marked by sleepless nights and a constant sense of vulnerability. The day of her release was bittersweet. As she stepped out of the prison gates, Emma felt a surge of relief, mixed with a wave of deep-seated anger and sadness for the time she had lost and the suffering she had endured because of Jack's actions. The experience had changed her, hardening her resolve to rebuild her life and seek justice for the wrongs committed against her. Emma knew the road ahead would be challenging. Her reputation had been tarnished, her career in jeopardy, and the trust she once had in Jack shattered beyond repair. But amidst the turmoil, a new sense of determination took root. She was no longer the same person who had entered prison. She was more assertive, resilient, and ready to fight back. Her first step was legally separating herself from Jack's mounting debts and criminal activities. She sought the help of a lawyer provided by the NGO to file for divorce and to begin clearing her name. Emma also contacted Sophie, a pillar of support throughout her ordeal, to help her navigate her return to the hospital. Emma was a maelstrom of emotions after her release, but she knew she needed closure. She sought out Jack, not for reconciliation, but for understanding, for an answer to the question that haunted her nights. Why? She found him in their once shared apartment, a shell of the vibrant place it used to be. The walls, once adorned with pictures of happier times, were now bare, mirroring the emptiness of their relationship. Jack sat at the kitchen table, a chaos of bills and empty bottles around him, his eyes hollow and unfocused. "Jack," Emma began, her voice steady despite the turmoil within her. "I need to understand why you did it, why you dragged me into your mess." Jack looked up, his expression a mix of surprise and annoyance. "Emma, what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be at work or something?" The dismissiveness in his tone stung. But Emma persisted. "I spent months in prison because of what you did, Jack. Months. I need to know why." Jack scoffed, his words laced with bitterness. "Oh, please, don't act like you're some innocent victim. You knew what you were getting into when you married me." The accusation hit Emma like a physical blow. "I married a man I thought I knew. Not whatever you've become." Jack's face twisted into a sneer. "What I've become? You're one to talk to. Always so high and mighty with your nursing job, acting like you're better than everyone." Emma felt a surge of anger, but kept her composure. "This isn't about me, Jack. This is about you, your gambling, and how you drag me down with you." Jack stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "So what? Do you want me to say I'm sorry? That I regret it?" His voice rose, echoing off the walls of the apartment. "Fine. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry that I ever thought you could handle being with someone like me. I'm sorry that I had to forge your damn signature to keep us afloat because you were too busy playing saint at the hospital." Emma took a step back, the venom in his words cutting deep. "You think that justifies what you did? You put me in prison, Jack. You ruined my life." Jack's expression, a flicker of the man she once knew, softened momentarily, but it was quickly replaced by a hardened, cold look. "Life's tough, Emma. You should have learned that by now." With those words, Jack turned away, leaving Emma standing amidst the wreckage of their marriage. It was clear to her now. The man she had loved was gone, replaced by a stranger consumed by his demons. Emma left the apartment, her heart heavy, but her resolve firmer than ever. She would move forward, rebuild her life, and leave Jack and his destruction behind. The legal battle that Emma embarked upon was not just a quest for her vindication, but a fight for justice against the man who had nearly destroyed her life. With Sophie's unwavering support, Emma began assembling her case against Jack. Sophie introduced her to a lawyer friend, Adrian, who specialized in financial fraud and identity theft. Adrian was moved by Emma's story and agreed to take on her case pro bono. Together, they combed through the tangled web of deceit that Jack had woven. Adrian's expertise in financial law proved invaluable as he meticulously traced the forged documents back to Jack. They gathered bank statements, loan applications, and even security footage from gambling dens that showed Jack recklessly spending money. It was a painstaking process, but piece by piece, the evidence began to paint a clear picture of Jack's deception. As the court date approached, the tension was palpable. Emma, though nervous, felt a sense of empowerment she hadn't experienced in years. She was no longer the helpless victim of Jack's misdeeds. She was taking control of her narrative, fighting back against the injustice done to her. The courtroom was a battleground where the truths of Emma's and Jack's lives were laid bare. Adrian skillfully presented the evidence, unraveling the fabric of lies Jack had created. Emma took the stand, her testimony poignant and powerful, resonating with the jury and the courtroom. Jack's defense was weak, his responses evasive and contradictory. The evidence against him was overwhelming, and his attempts to deflect only reinforced his guilt. As the trial progressed, it became increasingly clear that justice was on Emma's side. The judge and jury were moved by her plight and impressed by the meticulousness of the evidence. The legal battle, fraught with emotional and legal complexities, was not just about Emma's exoneration, but also a stand against financial abuse and the destruction it wreaks on innocent lives. Emma's journey through this legal maze was a testament to her resilience and relentless pursuit of justice. In the trial's aftermath, the resolution was a profound moment of vindication for Emma. The court ruled in her favor, absolving her of all charges related to the financial fraud and recognizing Jack's sole responsibility. With this legal affirmation, Emma could finally close the chapter of her life, overshadowed by betrayal and injustice. The journey had been arduous, but it left Emma transformed. She emerged cleared of all wrongdoing. Sophie remained by her side, her friendship a constant source of strength.